My first homily with you. Are you nervous? I've got a question for you to begin with. What's in your heart? What's in your heart? Our first reading today takes place in the desert, and the people of Israel were none too happy with Moses. Thank you very much for being in the desert. They keep protesting against him. Moses, we're going to die out here. We're going to starve to death. We would have been better off being back in the land of slavery. You've brought us out here to die. The desert is a tough place. It's parched, rugged, and it's a place where lots of things die. So, how's life in the desert for you? What's in your heart? Now, I know we're not in a desert. We live next to a great ocean. We have many beautiful lakes, and the trees are beautiful this time of year. But let's not look through this lens through a material lens, through a physical lens, but through a spiritual lens. Let us plumb this text for really important spiritual lessons drawn out of the deep well of our faith to help us navigate this time. In our spiritual tradition, the desert is a place where our identity is formed, our identity is sharpened by confronting our fears in the midst of our very existence being threatened. It's where we come to know who we deeply are at our innermost being. It's where we come to know and trust that we are beloved children of God. It's a place where we go to face our demons, our addictions, our attachments, and our fears. It's a place where we confront our shame, our regrets, our embarrassments, and our sin. It's a place where we go to prepare ourselves for periods of great transition and to discern the hope that we have for our future. The desert is a place, of course, where Jesus went after his own baptism before he started his public ministry. He went there to be tempted and to deepen in his own identity, his own purpose, and his own mission. It's a place where we learn to trust that God is going to show up and God is going to make the path clear. God is going to show up and God is going to make the path clear. If I didn't believe that with all of my heart, I wouldn't be here. Now, our reading this morning is from Exodus 16, and of course, it's key to our understanding of the fulfillment of the story of Israel through the Eucharist. But I want to back up 2 chapters first. I want to go back to Exodus 14, and I want to paint a scene for you. Exodus 14. The people of Israel have left Egypt under the leadership of Moses. They're standing on the western bank of the Red Sea. They see a great ocean to the east. They know they have no boats to get across it. And to the west, they see the dust cloud of the Egyptian army coming after them. And they say the same thing that they protested in chapter 16. They said, Moses, what are you doing? You've brought us out here to die. They saw no hope. There's no way they could get across that great sea, and they see the Egyptian army coming to either kill them or bring them back into slavery. And this is what Moses says. He says this. It's Exodus 14:14, if you want to read it. It says, "The Lord will deliver you. You need only be still. The Lord will deliver you. You need only be still." Be still. Really, Moses? Is that the best you got? Be still? You want us to be still. We've got an ocean here and an army coming. You want us to be still. We're going to die, Moses. And immediately after Moses says these words, he raises his staff, and the Red Sea parts, and the people of Israel find their path across to the other side. So let's apply this to our current reality today. We know the bishop has signed decrees of closure. We know our numbers are down. We know we don't have enough money. We don't We don't want to die. We don't want to lose our buildings. We're scared. We're angry. We're frustrated. We feel responsible for someone else's irresponsibility. So my question to you is, how's life in the desert for you? What's in your heart? In the midst of all of this, what's in your heart? Another desert. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. It's tough. I know that some of our loved ones has died over these past 18 months. Some of you were even unable to travel to be with your loved ones in their last days of life. It's taken a toll on us. It's taken a toll on our mental health. And at some points over the past 18 months, even our streets, especially in the earlier months, our streets were deserted as we tried to rally around the catchphrase, "Stay the blazes home." Speaking of stay the blazes home, some churches in our country have been set ablaze because of yet another desert we're journeying through, the horrific legacy of our involvement in the residential schools. I want you to know that I hear your hurt. I hear your anger. I share in your bewilderment. Some people who were regular Mass goers have contacted me to say that they don't want any affiliation with the church. Others who are still in the pews, others who still come to Mass, are saying that this has really, really shaken their faith. I get it. I hear your pain. I want you to trust where this comes from, because it comes from a place of justice. Justice for victims and survivors of residential schools who our church has participated in depriving them of their God-given dignity. And so it's a cry for those of us in leadership in the church to act like Christ in the midst of the desert, rather than institutional defensiveness. It's a cry for every single one of us, to seek opportunities to reconcile. If that's not enough desert, we're in the midst of a painful amalgamation going from 4 parishes down to 1. I know it feels like a desert to many of you who have many fond memories and attachments to these buildings. They have symbolic and important meaning for you. I get it. And so here I come as your pastor to journey alongside you through this desert, to help you navigate this desert. And I want you to know that I'm hungry too. And now it seems we thirst. We're thirsty. We're hungry. We long for nourishment. We're starving. And we, like the children of Israel, reach up and say, "Lord, where are you? Where are you in the midst of this? We're scared. We're dying. Where are you?" It's tough. But as we know through our faith, through the story of Israel, through the story of Christ, through all that God has done for us through Christ, the desert can be either a place of death or a life-giving place of renewal, a life-giving place of preparation, of discernment, and a place of radical transformation. Here's what's written in the book of Deuteronomy about the people wandering around the desert for 40 years. This is what's written. Why were they there? To know what was in your heart. That's what's written about why God had the people of Israel wandering around the desert for 40 years, to know what was in your heart. This time in our history may feel like we're wandering in a desert, and God is asking us, what's in your heart? How do we do this? How do we understand what's in our heart? How do we do it? How do we examine our conscience? How do we understand what's in our heart so we too can become beacons of hope and love for our community? How do we do this? As I was preparing this, I thought of, I spent some time in the Navy, and I thought of the SOS signal that goes up, Mayday. We're calling in Mayday here. SOS. So I want to suggest to you a spiritual way of navigating this desert that we're in at the moment. Stillness. Start with stillness. The Lord will deliver you. The Lord will deliver us. We need only be still. In the midst of it all, in the midst of our fear, our pain, our hurt, our bewilderment, I would encourage each of us every day to spend a little bit of time in prayer, in stillness. Cultivate that discipline into your lives and be honest with yourselves and what you bring to God. How are you doing with all this? So, first point, stillness. The second step, through the discipline of prayer, through the discipline of stillness, be open. Come to Mass with an open heart. And when you open up your hands to receive the Blessed Sacrament, may that be a symbol of your heart open to receive the grace that God has to offer you, even in the midst of this desert. Open up the barren places in your heart and ask Jesus to come and nourish this dry place. Come, Lord Jesus, help us through this. I'm open to receive. Help me, Lord. And the third, so stillness, openness, and surrender. Surrender. I'm certain of one thing. The desert is not going to surrender to our will. We will die if we try to do this on our own steam, by our own willpower. We're not going to do it on our own steam, and so we surrender to God. God who is love through and through. God who just wants to speak his mercy into your life. God who wants to nourish these dry places in your heart. God who is love through and through wants you to surrender your heart to him. Surrender it all to God. Surrender it all. Surrender all your hopes, all your fears, all your anxieties, surrender it all to God. And allow these words that Jesus spoke in the gospel today to wash over your soul. I am the bread of life, Jesus said. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. After the 4 p.m. Mass yesterday, a man stopped me on the way out, and he said, I when you asked me, what's in your heart, he said, well, I got a stent put in 2 weeks ago. And then he said, I was scared before surgery. It was a very, very challenging time. And so stillness, openness, and surrender, and God provided the path. Jesus said, come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. God has provided the manna that we need in this desert. And now we are about to celebrate God's abiding presence through the sacrament of the altar. We are about to receive Christ who nourishes us. God provides. God always provides. So let us cultivate stillness and openness and surrender. Praise his glory.